I could just grab your undivided attention for a while, then we're going to have a bit of fun, hopefully. Hey guys, come down and grab a unit outline. All right, so we've got the intros out of the way. Everyone's got a unit outline. We're doing fabulously.
It's not just about introducing yourself, and it's not just about discussing the unit outline. It's critical to make that first impression.
You'll do well. HD for you, no.
You've got to capture their interest, and you've got to set the tone right there and then.
Before we get going, two things, folks. Two things. I want you to strap yourselves in and feel the G's, yeah? Feel the G's.
I think when I first walked into my very first lecture, I was just pretty stiff and pretty robotic and got on with the subject matter. I don't do that now, certainly.
Now come back, guys. Let's go. Guy in the blue shirt. Pressure's on. Oh, give yourselves a round of applause. Fantastic.
The first lecture is very different to your standard lecture. Where you're trying to set expectations, you're trying to form an impression with them, a big first impression.
We'll run through this. It's a bit of a housekeeping lecture today, unfortunately, but we need to do it, and we'll get it over as painlessly as possible.
So the elements you need to cover are the basic, I suppose, housekeeping issues.
So it's entirely up to you whether you want to attend. However, please bear this in mind. The way I run the lectures, you'll get the slides every week, but that is just a base.
You run through a unit outline. It's really difficult to do that creatively, but I think it's important to try and do that creatively. So things like assessment, expectations, policies are very important. Contact mechanisms, support mechanisms, so I guess the standard things that most of us would do in an opening lecture. But apart from that, I like to actually try and explain the relevance of the course in a broader context.
Very importantly, I'd like to get to know a bit about you, your backgrounds, your year level, where you're from, and so on and so forth. And in that context, I want us to discuss, well, why the hell are we doing CLAW 1001? What's the significance of CLAW 1001? Where does it fit in? Why does the faculty have this unit as an introductory unit? And yada, yada, yada.
I do a lot of preparation. Again, you don't just have to think about content issues, you've got to think about process, so you've got to think about what you're actually going to do in the lecture, more so than you would a standard lecture. So I put quite a lot of time into it, actually. The main, I guess, device I use, if that's the right expression, is humour.
And one of my former students said, hey Giuseppe, this is on the street, he goes, mate, you know how you're now a senior lecturer, does that mean you get a senior's card?
You've just got to strike that balance, and you've got to be adjusting constantly so that you don't sort of sail too closely to the wind with the humour. These are, in my case, 18-year-old students generally, and they might misinterpret that. The students do naturally, I think, get confused because here we are, we're all making lots of noise, and then all of a sudden he kind of wants us to listen.
You all right? Everything okay? You're texting someone about what I'm wearing? What's going on?
But I find that humour, for a start, it relaxes the students, and I guess it makes the harder things a bit more palatable. And the subject itself, in my case, lends itself to humour because you've got human drama involved with the cases and so on and so forth. So you've got that element. But apart from humour, lots of hand movements. Maybe that's my Italian background or something. But so variation in colour, variation in movement, getting different people to be involved, including students.
Yeah. Where do you find the podcast? Oh, fantastic. Thank you. What's your name? Good on you, Ollie. I love that. So he's helping me out by asking me a question.
Getting them involved from day one is important. Makes them feel like they're part of the process. So that's the idea of a lecture. Otherwise, you could just podcast the whole thing, or there'd be no difference between that and reading a text chapter, for example. You've got to look up and you've got to listen and you've got to adjust. So you've got to be ready for that. And just looking at their faces, I think it's critical that you actually feel what's going on.
And the feedback from the students was overwhelmingly positive. He said, the judge can't be deciding to at least know when to call a lawyer.